It's over 9,000!
Welcome, Super Elite Warriors, to Final Forum, a podcast for the discussion of all things Dragon Ball. I am your host, Bekinney, an elite recruiting member of the Frieza Force, on a mission to find the best warriors from across the galaxy to join the greatest army of all time. And I am joined, as always, by my new recruit co-host. Oh yeah, so ready for that promotion any day now. Speaking of gaining rank, I've got another top 10 mini-sode for our listeners. This time, I've been asked to rate my top 10 villains in the Dragon Ball franchise. So without much further ado, let's get into this. Starting off at number 10, we have Pilaf. I know what you're thinking, but he's a gag villain. To which I say, oh, but he's Goku's oldest and most effective nemesis. And you respond, wait, what? He's never once beaten Goku in a fight, thus triggering my trap card. For you see, Pilaf is not interested in merely physically beating Goku. He's interested in a much loftier goal. He wants to destroy Goku's legacy. Now, you might be pretty confused by this. What you've probably forgotten is that Pilaf's actions are what kicks off the events of Dragon Ball GT. In a move that showcased truly devilish cunning, he managed to stain the otherwise sterling record of the Dragon Ball franchise. Normally, this would be a move that automatically gets you to the top of my list, but there was an unintended silver lining. He denied Dragon Ball Evolution the opportunity to corrupt the Dragon Ball name first, thus ensuring that over time it may be forgotten. Total bro move. Coming in at number 9, we have Raditz. Raditz holds a special place in my multi-chambered organ that my species does not refer to as a heart. His introduction in Z is absolutely what got me hooked on this show when I was younger. It's fast-paced, frenetic, and the odds have never seemed so stacked against Goku. And he's just a grunt. Sometimes being a jobber can be kind of badass. Number 8, 17. Now, 17 is kind of like if Toriyama read the Raditz arc, and then decided to Toriyama our expectations. 17's also a bit of a jobber, but he and his sister are sold as the actual villains of the arc, only for Toriyama to get all meta on us and pull a bait and switch with Cell. But it doesn't stop there. Then he becomes a MacGuffin, being pursued by Cell to become perfect. Then he also becomes, eventually, an ally, which sort of undercuts his ranking by quite a bit. We're all about second chances here on Final Forum. Even so, he still remains a credible threat through most of the arc, and his presence adds a lot of chaos and unpredictability to the outcome. Or it would if his bait and switch wasn't also a bait and switch. Which brings us to number 7, Dr. Gero. He was the original bait and switch. Given Trunks' intel from the future, everyone assumed Dr. Gero and 19 were the villains, only to be replaced by 16, 17, and 18. Outside of the Android Cell arcs, Gero was doggedly pursuing Goku since his days fighting the Red Ribbon Army. His enmity for the hero persists after his death, with his research living on through Cell Max. That kind of sticking power earns his spot, but he is dead, which kind of cost him a few spots. Also, his name is basically Dr. Vomit, which... Sticking with the trend of dead villains, we have Nappa at number 6. This Saiyan is an absolute madman. He is the ideal of an elite, cold-blooded space warrior personified. He cared not for a single life outside of his own, wiped out countless civilians with nary a thought, destroyed advanced militaries like they were made out of paper. He had a level of violence and intensity that had yet to be seen in Dragon Ball. He even managed to take out most of the Z-Warriors back when they were more than just an audience. He would surely rank much higher had he not been team-killed like a boss. Rounding out the top half at number 5, we have Bobbity. This sniveling coward opportunist is an excellent villain in the I can't wait to see him get destroyed school of evil doing. It may seem overly simplistic, but in a manga where people get punched in the face all the time, he has the most punchable face. The only problem is, we don't get to see a good guy deliver justice. At number 4, we have King Piccolo. In the same vein as Bobbity, he's a straightforward villain that you love to hate, but instead of being a sniveling coward, we get a sort of Stretch Armstrong / slug that oozes charisma and the power to back up being a total badass. I'd go into more detail, but I'm sure everyone right now is a diehard fan and has already memorized our King Piccolo discussions from earlier episodes. Psst! You're looking for episode 59. Anyway, moving on. Number 3 needs no introduction, but, well, then you wouldn't really know who I'm talking about, so, number 3 is Cell. He's a genetic amalgamation of some of the universe's strongest fighters, and normally that would be enough to be impressive, but it looks like he's also got some of Gero's brains as well. Cell is merciless, powerful, cunning, and almost mustache-twirly in his evilness. He would be at the top of this list, but there's another villain who did all of those things first. And at number 2, we have our benevolent Lord Frieza? While this horrid propaganda slandering of our dear leader is somewhat blasphemous, alright, extremely blasphemous, I find it entertaining in a bizarro Superman sort of way. This version of Frieza is an absolute menace, and no matter what Goku and company do, he always seems to turn up like a bad penny with the survivability of a cockroach. Please forgive me for the comparison, Lord Frieza. He even manages to buck the trend of major villain becoming a friend. The closest he's ever gotten is, quote, ally out of convenience. He has everything: charisma, power, brains, and an inexhaustible supply of hatred. But Bekinney, I can hear you saying, who could possibly be a better villain? Well, I'll give you one clue. Frieza might be a top-tier villain, but his brother is cooler. Yes, that's right. At the top of the compost pile that is Dragon Ball villains, reclining on his chilling throne sits none other than King Cold. What's that? How could I possibly put King Cold at the top of the list of villains? Well, it's very simple. It boils down to something so diabolically genius in its simplicity. This guy sets up his son with an inferiority complex so strong he becomes the universe's most notorious villain. And then he manages to pre-troll him by naming his brother Cooler. I mean, that's just evil. There's no other way to describe that. Well, that's all the time I have for today, dear listeners. Be sure to let me know all the ways I'm wrong on our Facebook page, or make your case for a villain that didn't make the list. But before you do, I have a small disclaimer. I tried to stay away from characters that have a redemption arc because, you know, they redeem themselves, so we don't really consider them villains anymore. So they wouldn't really place very high on the list. And mostly just to avoid having to argue against, like, the good things that they ultimately end up doing. I also completely left out Tao Paipai because, let's be honest, that's just not fair to everybody else. I also left off Jelly, since we're really only tangentially related to Dragon Ball, and he's more of a personal villain for me anyway. Well, thanks for taking the time to listen, folks, and have an excellent Halloween. Will Bekinney survive his next performance review? Has he torpedoed his chances at promotion with this ranked list of villains? Was this Jelly's intention all along? Find out next time on Final Forum.
Final Form is written and produced by Tom Gwelly. It is performed by Dan Kinney and Tom Gwelly. Our webmaster is Dan Kinney. Our theme music is provided by YouTube content creator GVG Kit. Want to learn more about the Dragon Ball universe, including concept art, behind-the-scenes interviews, and recommendations from Jelly and Bekinney? Connect with us on social media. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter @FinalForumPod. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you receive your podcasts. And of course, make sure to share it with your friends and family and help us spread the word of the glory of Lord Frieza. The Frieza Force thanks you for your listenership.